Hello and welcome to the finals of the Legends of Chess tournament, and it's a big game coming up with two of the very best players in the world of chess will be battling it out for the coveted title. The excitement of the final is very high since Magnus Carlsen continues his winning streak with Carlsen in good form. His opponent and nemesis Ian Nepomniatchi, who holds a very good record against Carlsen. So it will be an interesting battle of nerves between the two of the giant killers of modern day chess. Anything can happen with Carlsen, an expert in finding winning strategies out of any position, and Nepo, on the other hand, likes to fish in troubled waters. So without any further ado, let's analyze the first game played between the two. Nepo is playing with the white pieces and Carlsen with black. So playing with the white pieces, Nepo goes for e4 and c5 replies Carlsen. Carlsen goes for the Sicilian defense and knight to f3, d6 and d4. C takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to f6 and knight to c3 and a6. Now it turns out to be the Sicilian Najdorf variation. And rook to g1. Nepo goes for the freak attack variation by playing rook to g1, and now b5, preparing for b4. Here Nepo clearly goes for g5, and then bishop to b7 by Carlsen. Now g5 attacking the knight, so knight goes to d7, knight f to d7 and a3, preventing white from playing b4, and g6, preparing for castling. So now h4 and bishop to g7 and h5. Nepo is offering a pawn. So now knight to c6, attacking the knight on d4. So bishop comes into rescue with e3, bishop to e3 and knight to c5, and now f3, protecting the pawn on e4, and then Carlsen castles on the king side. Now h into g6 and f into g6. Now Carlsen got a semi-open rook file. So now Nepo takes knight into c6 and bishop into c6. Now bishop to h3. Here Nepo gets a very good diagonal, h3 c8 diagonal, full control of the h3 c8 diagonal. So here Carlsen decides to take the knight on c3, bishop into c3, check, and then b into c3, and now e5, preventing white from playing f4, and then bishop to g4 by Nepo. Now queen to e7, preparing for promotion of rook on a8 into the game. So in reply to queen to e7, Nepo plays queen to d2, further consolidating his position, and the pawn on g5, and rook a to d8 as expected. Now c4, b takes c4, and then Nepo goes for the queenside castling. But here queenside castling was not good at all, because black pieces are very active on the queen side. Like the queen on e7 can play queen to b7, and the rook will be having an open file with the knight on c5 and a bishop on c6. Black pieces are well positioned for an attack, so queenside castling I don't think was a good move by Nepo. So now knight to e6 by Carlsen, preparing for knight to f4. So now queen to c3, attacking the c4 pawn. Now Carlsen decides to sacrifice a pawn. Now he plays a bishop to d7 to further play rook to c8 and try something like rook to c8 and then after attack. So after bishop to d7, Nepo takes the pawn on c4, king to g7 and queen to b4, putting pressure on the d6 pawn. Now knight to f4 by Carlsen, a clear idea of playing a knight to e2 and give check and take the rook. Bishop into g4. Now rook into g4 and then a rook into f4, and then a rook into f4 After that, queen into g5. Here Nepo cannot move the rook on f4 because of the king. The king is pinned. So after queen into g5, Nepo wins a pawn by a rook into d6, and then queen into f4 check. So king to b1 and rook into d6 and queen into d6, and then h5. Carlsen prepares for the pawn march. Nepo goes for c4. He's also preparing for the promotion of c4 pawn. Queen f3. Now queen e5 check. Carlsen offers trade of queens by playing queen to f6. Nepo is not interested in trading of queens, and he plays queen to d5 and h4 for the promotion of pawn, and then c5. So now queen to f1 check. Now king to b2, then queen to g2 check, and then king to b3 and queen to g3 check. Now king to a4 and h3. Now c6 and h2. So now queen to d7 check. Nepo is trying to play c7. First he gives a check on d7, and then king to h6 by Carlsen. So now queen to d8, and now queen to e5. Now queen to h4 check, and king to g7, and king to b3. Now queen to b5 check, and now king to c3. And here Carlsen wins a pawn by playing queen into c6 check. Now king to d3 and queen to d6 check. Now king to e2 and queen into a3, winning another pawn. So now king to f2 and queen to b2 check. Now king to g3. Here Carlsen is haunting Nepo's king. Carlsen offers a trading of queen by playing queen to f6. Here Nepo is not interested in trading of queens, so he plays queen to h3 and then queen to c3 check. Here Nepo is forced to trade his queens. Say if king takes h2, then Carlsen will go for the trading of queens, queen into h3 and king into h3, and further Carlsen can easily promote his pawn on a6. This e4 pawn cannot be queened because of the king here. So it was in this position on move 50 that Nepo resigned the game. Carlsen played a wonderful game in the first match of the finals. So let's see what the remaining games is having in store. So stay tuned for more action from the Legends of Chess tournament.